Okay, hi everyone. Today I'm going to be telling you about engineer's perspective on video game graphics. Hi, I'm the engineer. So the other day I was playing games on Discord as per usual, and my friend started sharing his screen. And this is on a screen. This is a screenshot from Vanguard, which is the new card that's just come out. That is rendered graphics. That is insane. I was like, oh my God, this is so hyper realistic. This is insane. It made me think back to when I was making games in my degree and things look more like this. So, hi, my name's Amy and I suck at art, which is weird since I did a digital arts degree. Shout out to my digis in the crowd. So you may be wondering, okay, Amy, if you suck at art and you got a digital arts degree, how did you do it? Can I also make games without being an artist? Yes, you can. Let me show you how. So you want to make games. You've woken up, you're like, today's the day. I'm going to make AAA game. I'm going to be billionaire. This is it. I'm sold. But you suck at art. What do you do? Where do you start? So the most important thing to remember is that good graphics do not equal a good game. My VITS lecturers thought the same thing. They said to us, we're not marking you on your graphics. We're marking you on what? I don't know either. And so then I was thinking to myself, so how do you make good games? If it's not about graphics, what do you do? The first thing you want to think about is performance. You have to think about your audience. When my friend was playing COD, he was playing on a 3070 Ti graphics card. That's going to look amazing. If I played on the work laptop, don't play games on your work laptop, but if we did, then it wouldn't look as good. It wouldn't look as great. So what you want to remember is that every player must have a similar experience on different devices. You want to keep your graphics simple so that this is possible, so that if you're playing on a more simple device with not an amazing graphics card, your player will have the same experience. This is what happened when Sims 3 was released. There's just a picture at the bottom there. That game was released. It was amazing. The graphics were awesome, but some people literally could not play that game because of the way that it was made. And if you Google now Sims 3 on YouTube, you'll see Sims 3 bug fixes, Sims 3 glitch, how to make Sims 3 work. People can't play this game. If you Google the best video game of all time, this is not my consensus, this is Google's consensus. It says it's Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. That was made on the Nintendo 64 in 1998. That game looks very different to Call of Duty, if you can see there. You can see Legend of Zelda looks way more simple than COD. And that's a good thing to remember. You can keep your assets simple. Your game can be basic. Think of Geometry Dash. I nearly forgot the name of the freaking game. Geometry Dash. That main character was literally just a square, and that game was hugely successful. That's one of the favorite games that my bitch lecturers used to use to say, engineers, you guys can make games. Look at Geometry Dash. So then what's more simple for graphics than pixel art? Pixel art's amazing. That got me through my degree. Look at all of my games. They're all pixel art. If you remember, arcade games were the first mainstream video games. Those are the games that started it all. If you look at Pong, which was known as the first successful video game, that's two rectangles and a square. And you can see Undertale, that was released in 2015, massive game, hugely successful. That's quite similar. That 8-bit style is really being used. It's quite popular. It's so strange. 1972 versus 2015, same style. So inconsistency is bad. Stick to an art style. Your UI, your color scheme, and your assets should all mesh together. They need to make sense. You don't want inconsistency. It's jarring and distracting. And even an untrained eye, even someone who's just, oh, I'll just play this game. Oh, what the hell? Why does that UI look so strange? If you keep everything consistent and together, it'll make your games look more professional. People will enjoy playing them more, and you'll be more impressive just in general. So now what? I've made my simple and consistent graphics. I'm ready. I can just move on to mechanics, right? Well, what if you want to turn your game graphics into game graphics, TM? Ladies and gentlemen, my distinguished guests, I'm going to tell you the secret. This will take every single one of your games to the next level. Screen shake. So, just kidding, kind of. Screen shake actually ties into a really important aspect of game design, which is game feel. Game feel can also be described as game juice. The closest kind of definition that I would think of is immersion. So for people who don't really play games, if you guys have ever watched the show The Office, when that cameraman is filming everyone in the office and you almost feel like you're a third person there, he's walking around, the camera's moving, You're not looking at just a screen. You're being like, wow, I'm in the show. I'm another character. That's what we kind of looking for. But even then, the concept is so abstract that I don't know if immersion kind of captures it. What's good to kind of remember is that good game feel is invisible. Your player shouldn't be playing a game and say, oh, wow, this game feels great. No, they should just know. They should just be fully immersed in the game. What's weird about game feel is that bad game feel or no game feel, that's the most obvious. That's what highlights you're staring at a screen. This is just a screen. I'm looking at some pixels. Okay, I want to go do something else. I don't want to do this. Good game feel causes you to get lost in the game. Like with Sims 3, I'm sure all my Simmers out there, if you play Sims 3, you log in, oh, just play for 20 minutes, it'll be great, da, 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 da. You look outside, it's dark, you haven't eaten in 7 hours, and your Sim has 3 kids and a yacht somehow. So, okay, if we've got our graphics and we want to add this game feel, how do we do it? What's the hack? What's happening? It's difficult to kind of have the step-by-step thing of how to add game feel because it's also difficult to describe. It's also so subjective. For example, when you play Stardew Valley, which is a very nice, calming, relaxing farm simulator, you want your game to have different aspects of game feel versus if you play something like Valorant, which is fast-paced, shooting, everything. You can't apply the same topics to those two things. So we want to have our game graphics TM to provide visual feedback to the player. That's what I find important, my perspective on game feel at least. I know different game designers have different ways of thinking about it. It's making your game reactive. It's making your player feel like what I'm doing is making a difference. I'm playing this game. If I do this, wow, I've changed it. Like I've put 7 hours into this game. Something has changed in the game. What's nice for us engineers is that game feel can be programmed because if we have our graphics and they're subpar, we can kind of juice them up, game juice, and add programmatically that kind of game feel. So there's a few nice little hints that us game designers in the biz like to use. Screen shake is one of them. If you look at this giant Mario, this is when he's gotten a little level up that makes him massive and he walks and the entire earth is shaking. He's massive. But that's great. That's great. That makes sense. But if they'd made tiny baby Mario shake the earth every time he walked, that wouldn't make any sense. People would notice the screen shake. You have to remember good game feel is seamless, invisible. Your player doesn't want to say, wow, there's screen shake here. Why the hell is that even happening? It has to be a balance. And that happens with all of the hacks I'm about to show you. It has to be where it's appropriate, where it makes sense. Having a good game soundtrack is also hugely important. The Bubble Bobble in the games room, everyone go play it after work though. It's such a good game. That soundtrack is amazing. That is my entire childhood. And as soon as you hear that soundtrack, you're like, oh wait, I want to go play that game again. You want to get people to play your game again. Another thing to remember, also sound effects. That's awesome. The Mario coin sound, everyone knows that. You're like, oh, I've grabbed a coin. Or, you know, if you've hit an enemy, a punch, things like that. Your player's making a difference in the world. Another thing, all my Unity friends should know, particle effects. Those are nice little effects you can add if you want to add rain in your game. If you want to have fire, some little sparks around, everything kind of happening like that. Some other tricks include idle animation. If your player is sitting, standing, your character still, you want your player to breathe, you know, this is an alive character. This is not just a random screen. Other hacks like making the screen light red if you hit an enemy, you know, oof, I've hit an enemy, that's not great. There are tons more. These are just the ones that I use to get through my cheeky digital arts degree. What you want to remember is that players want a satisfying and enriching experience. They want to feel like what they're doing is making a difference. And like I said, what's great for us engineers, we can have that satisfaction without having the amazing game graphics. I remember looking at the artists in my degree and being like, there's no way I'm going to be able to make games like this. Their art is gorgeous. It's amazing. Using these game feel things, our games were on the same level, which was so helpful, so amazing. So to wrap up, engineers who can't draw can make good games. The pro tips include making sure your game performs well and performs equally on different devices, keep your assets basic, and most importantly, game feel. That's how you turn your game graphics into game graphics TM. Things like screen shake, music and sound effects, particle effects, and idle animations. So if you stick to these hacks, you too can become a digital artist without ever have taken an art class. And if you want to see me play Valorant, like I mentioned earlier, subscribe to my Twitch stream. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Amy. Floor is open for questions. Anyone in the room or in the chat?
Tori.
It's not really a question, but more of a statement. If you made those little pixel art assets in the presentation, then you can draw.
I did not. Hello. Do you think I could make these?
I thought you did those. You're like, oh, I can't draw. It's
No,
like,
no, I wish I could. I did do like a little thing. I remember one that I made was literally the square inspiration. I just took a square and I put CPU and I put a face on it and I was like, oh my God, the CPU is alive. That was like my hack.
First statement, then question. Statement, you asked, what could be easier than pixel art? Abstract art.
Abstract art.
Just shapes.
This
Cool.
shape.
And then a question on sound. You said a good soundtrack can make or break a game, right? But how do you choose a soundtrack? Specifically because sound is very linked to genre, which is very different for people with different sound tastes. So how do you go about choosing a soundtrack that you think will fit the game, but also accommodate the vast majority of your audience?
That's an interesting one. I think for me, my favorite soundtracks, I love the Bubble Bobble one. I love the Stardew Valley soundtrack, things like Sims 2. What I'm thinking about those is that they're easily, you don't get sick of it. It's repetitive, but it's good in the background so that you're not getting, oh my God, I'm sick of this song. It's something that, for example, the Sims shopping theme. I don't know if you guys know that one, but it's like, da, da, da. It's like you're shopping, you're chilled, but it's not distracting. I think that's also key. It's interesting with the genre because, like you said, a horror game is going to be very different from Stardew Valley. But I remember in the degree, there were people specifically for sound. And I think it's a really in-depth thing. I think if it was me trying to add sound, the thing that I would do is mostly ask people because it's subjective. What I would think, oh, cool, the soundtrack sounds great. Someone would be like, why is this so distracting? Don't choose that. That would be my thing because I'm not very skilled in the sound department. But I think the best way is, play testing. So play test, ask different people, what do you think of the soundtrack? Is it too distracting? Is it adding or subtracting? And it's a difficult one, but I think the most would be asking different people, making sure it's not too distracting and making sure it does suit the genre. You're not going to have some funny, cute little game soundtrack with a horror game, unless that's what you're going for. But yeah, that's what I would think.
Hello. Okay. Firstly, that was amazing. Secondly, what's your Twitch username so we can subscribe?
Twitch link, guys. Base 99. Me and my friends.
Okay. Any final questions?
Yeah, definitely. That would definitely make sense. Like the horror game, you want to have the spooky horror things, but that's also subjective because what's nice is doing some new types of games where the first thing that comes to mind for me is like the horror game, but with like the cutesy little happy thing in the background to kind of distract, because so many people are doing so many new things, and that's what I think makes games so fun, is to be able to play things like that and be like, wow, I wouldn't expect this music, but then somehow it actually works. So yeah, it's all subjective, it's all play testing, it's all seeing what works, because that's another thing that I remember in game design is that it's not a glitch, it's a feature. It's not a bug, it's a feature. If it's broken and weird, then wait, this kind of works. Like that can happen too. Yeah.